Happy Friday, it's useless story time with me. And today I'm going to share some stories about my, evolution growing up with the blues at Bridgetown. I can't obviously share all of my memories because now the festival is about to celebrate its 30th year. So first up, I was a mere 7 years old when the blues at Bridgetown first came to town. Now keep in mind, Bridgetown is still a very small community, but we've exploded a lot more since then. I think we're at over 5,000 population within the Shire of Bridgetown Greenbushes now. Back then, a lot smaller. So something of this magnitude coming to town was just mind-blowing. Going to 1999. 99. And it was my very first live performance on a guitar. Up until then I'd done live performances on piano at a Stedford's, if you count that, or choir. Do you count that as a live performance? Anyway, very first time performing live on guitar with the high school band. I think I might have played Johnny Be Good, something like that. Anyway, I also wore a frog shirt because, all about the rock and roll and stuff. Nature's cool. There was a bit of a frog theme actually, if I think about it, because it was also at the blues at Bridgetown that I used to save up my pocket money throughout the year to purchase a different beanbag frog each year. So also during my high school years, we got to, as students, attend different workshops, which is just an awesome opportunity, and I hope that's still continuing. Anyway, it was during one of those workshops that I got to see Bob Brosman, and he is in fact the reason why I play slide guitar now, I guess you could say, because in this workshop, he made it seem really achievable for anyone. He did all this amazing stuff with it, and I spent a lot of the workshop just kind of being mesmerized by his skills and the different sounds that were coming out of it and thinking, wow, that must feel amazing to do it. But he summarized the whole thing by basically saying anyone can pick up a slide and just have a go and have fun with it and enjoy the journey. And I took that key piece away and bought my first slide, which I think was a really like a stainless steel Jim Dunlop, I think. And anyway, I just kept having a go with it over the years. So rest in peace, Bob, and thank you for the inspiration, dude. And speaking of inspiration, many of you know that it was John Butler who was my main inspiration to lean towards acoustic guitar instead of electric that I was predominantly playing at the time. I saw him outside the Freemasons Hotel, and I think this was around 1999 as well. So I remember seeing him there and just being like, what is he doing with that acoustic guitar? How is he getting those sounds out of it? And oh my God, can I do something that cool? And it just kind of made me feel like the acoustic guitar had the potential for an even bigger sound than electric, because it was at that point in time, seeing what he was doing, that I realised that you could combine the warmth and fullness of an acoustic tone with that grit and fun effects and all the rest of it of an electric guitar. And I've been chasing that and enjoying the journey ever since. Now, I tell people my very first busking experience at the blues at Bridgetown was in 2008. This is in fact incorrect, because if I look back, I think it was 2002. I was working at River Rooster at the time, And my bosses encouraged and allowed me to busk acoustically out the front. I remember sitting on a very, very low stool, feeling very out of place, but I played some songs there and I think I earned a few coins. So I guess, technically, my first busking experience at the Blues at Bridgetown, well no, busking experience in general, was in 2002. I hope that this footage doesn't get me put in jail because it is incriminating. There's not many I've told this to. I don't even know if my parents know, but they're about to find out because I think they do watch my videos. Please forgive me. I was young. I think it was in 2003. I did not have, whenever it was, I didn't have a ticket of my own. It really, really was important that I saw one act live alongside my older sister. And that was John Butler. You know, he even sung a song, Sister, you know. It's got to be the two of us. So, here's the confession. She did have a ticket, okay? She paid for a weekend pass. She was in the venue. And the venues were set up very different back then. And I jumped the creek and sidled my way along the fence. It's like maybe about, like there wasn't even enough room for my foot to be there on the edge between the fence and the drop into the creek. That's how desperate we were to have this moment. And anyway, through the fence, she slipped off and passed me her pass. And I went back around. And I remember walking through the entrance and I'm like, you know, just act real cool, Trace, like you belong here. And, you know, I didn't want to get stopped for ID or anything. I don't know. So anyway, I'm just strolling down and I like hold up my arm to show my wristband. Like, you know, I'm one of them. I am a pass holder, thank you very much, coming through. And I hadn't barely got past the security before I like broke into a run and ran to my sister and we hugged and jumped around squealing that the plan had paid off and that we were going to get to see John Butler live together in our hometown. It was a pretty special moment. So I am really sorry that I committed a crime and that I didn't support the arts by purchasing a ticket. So I also now realise that it was that venue that I also did my spying on all the artists backstage. I'll clarify that in a minute. Hold that thought. I've got a truck coming past. So for those who do attend the festival and you're curious, the Gigelap venue used to be behind IGA and that whole car park used to be gravel. So it used to be fenced off and set up down there and yeah, it still makes me, oh no, it's really cool thinking back on it. But anyway, the point being that their backstage area was actually like this open, I feel like it was like a pen. It was a fenced off area out in the gravel. If it was cold, they had a 44 drum set up with a fire in it to keep artists warm and give them somewhere to relax and chill out before they went on stage. So I used to sit opposite the creek up on the bank, which was a high vantage point, to be a watcher without being seen. And I realise now, as I'm saying this, how creepy it makes me sound, like stalkerish. But let me clarify, okay, before you call the police and be like, this chick is batshit. Okay, so the reason why I would watch artists there is I never thought I could ever and would ever be in their situation. But I was really curious what it must feel like to be there, preparing yourself to go out on a stage of that magnitude with a sound system that large in front of an audience that eager, and I just wondered what it would feel like. And so the closest I thought I would ever come to that was to analyse others that were going through that experience, because I never thought it would be me. That's why I used to spy on artists backstage. So there was a gap there where I attended the festival, watched music, immersed myself in that, but I wasn't part of it as a musician. I had a small business in town, and I was a beautician. Go figure. It's the last career I thought I would end up in, but that's a whole other story of how I did end up in it. And I'm grateful because it brought me out of my shell enough to do what I do now and talk and connect with people like I wasn't able to. Anyway, I was sharing the space with a masseuse, and I thought she'd knocked off for the day one evening. This isn't on the Blues Festival. This is just, normal weekday stuff. So she'd gone home, she packed up, left, no worries. I thought I always kept a guitar at the shop, and I thought before I knocked off for the day, I'm going to treat myself to sitting down and playing some guitar and singing a song that I've been working on. And I finished singing it, and then I heard somebody clapping, and it scared the bejesus out of me. But it turned out that my masseuse friend had come back, and I had not heard her come in, and she had listened to me and just sat there as a quiet audience member enjoying my music. And she was actually a bit teary, and she was like, "Oh my God, Tracey, you're amazing. Why aren't you sharing this with anyone?" And I'm like, what, me? Like, no. I write these songs for myself. No one's going to want to hear what I have to sing, and no one's going to want to hear me. Anyway, we had quite a lengthy discussion over it, not just then, but over the following weeks. It took some convincing, but she got through to me and won and convinced me to busk out the front of our shop on the Saturday in 2008. I was blown away. I still find it hard to put into words because it's just me. I was playing music through a shitty old amp that I had that wasn't even a brand name, whatever. Just doing my thing, and back then and now, quite often, I sing with my eyes closed, and I open my eyes after, I don't know which song it was, first, second, whatever, and the street had gone from all these people just walking up and past. I open my eyes and they're all like congregated in front of me and applauding and just immersed in what I was doing, and I was just honestly shocked. I'm still shocked when it happens. But I was just like, I was not expecting that. And I kept playing, and more people gathered, and people started coming forward and giving me money. And I'm talking notes, not just your odd 20-cent shrapnel piece that's in your wallet, which I still think would be amazing, but they're chucking in $20 and $50 and stuff like this. Just blows my mind even now. And that was my experience. I walked away shaking from nerves and just so much energy in the air. And I'm rambling, sorry. Just trying to impart with you what that moment in time was like. But wait, it still continued on, because after that I had volunteered to perform at local childcare. They were doing a fundraiser throughout the Blues and kind of just taking donations for people to come in and see live music. So being a local artist, being that somebody had already convinced me to play, I was like, sure, I'll come up there, it'll be nice and quiet. And it was. And I had an artist who was from Margaret River at the time, And he came up to me and he's like, Cole Clark girl, you were busking on the streets earlier today, weren't you? He's like, some really cool stuff you're playing. Would you consider like opening for a few of my shows throughout the region? And I'm just thinking, what is this guy on? Like, I'm not good enough to play actual shows. But anyway, that was my first break. I did end up opening for quite a few of his shows throughout that season. And we'll leave it at that and say the rest is history because it's quite lengthy. But I guess you could say 2008, busking at the Blues at Bridgetown was my first break. So since 2010, I have been part of the festival lineup. I find that absolutely amazing. The support that I've had from the festival team is incredible. I always put in my artist application, but I never expect to get a spot because I know that the places are limited and there's an abundant amount of talented artists out there. So thank you to the festival and the committee for having my back all these years and helping me grow. I think it was 2012 I did get a short 15-minute spot on the main stage Blue Owl's Nest as a winner of a competition that held earlier that year, which I think was called the Winter Blues Showcase or something. But my first main stage appearance was in 2018. I got to play on the Blue Owl's Nest and Gigula, and I am honoured I have been on those stages, or at least one of them, ever since. And it's really hard to impart to people how surreal it is to be one of those artists that I was watching backstage all those years ago. I don't know how else to put it, but I never thought that I would be doing what I'm doing, and it's really cool. I also had my very first trio experience, like Tracey Barnett trio experience, was at the Blues at Bridgetown. As I said at the beginning of this video, or I think I said at the beginning of this video because I've spent so long rambling that I can't remember what I said in the intro. There is just innumerable memories that I cherish from being part of this festival. Bring on Blues at Bridgetown 2022, 30th year anniversary. Thanks so much for watching, guys. I hope to see you again very soon right here with another video.